Hi, this is Ian Wright, and this is part 4 of Meditations for Chronic Pain. This is the final part. And as I said at the beginning, with these types of techniques and this kind of thinking can be used if you're in chronic pain, if you're in acute pain. It can equally be used if you're feeling stressed, anxious, especially with anxiety. You can use the same techniques with anxiety because of the relentlessness of it. What we're trying to do with these particularly sensory techniques is to deal with the relentlessness of something which is never ending. With chronic pain syndromes, the pain is constantly there. If it's in the background or it comes to the foreground, it's always there. And what we're trying to do is find a little window of blue sky in the kind of trauma. So far we've looked at the idea of accepting that we have pain, allowing pain, and learning to start to observe it and finding a degree of neutrality to it and using the softness in our breathing with that. That's hard to do with a relentless pain that's gnawing in the background or a relentless anxiety. But if you keep practicing it, as soon as you engage with this allowing, it softens it. It softens it and just gives that little bit of space, a way in. And what we're always looking for is ways in and ways of finding it. The second podcast was around using breath, a variety of different breathing techniques. And breath is very important when we're dealing with pain and anxiety. How we use our breath and how we use our attention with the breath, and the variety of different ways we can do that. We did that extensively in part 2. Part 3, we look in more detail about attention and specifically where we place it, where we can place it in something that's real, or if it's in an imagined place, we can place it in our body or somewhere outside our body, or we can use it in an imagined space. So imagine that we are by the sea, the lapping waves, the quiet, or we're being held, or we're sitting by a warm fire. So we're taking our attention outside of where the pain is and being very precise as to where our attention is. The point with all these techniques actually is one by itself doesn't usually work because of the relentlessness of it, but for my personal brain, it's nice to flip between them. So if, for example, I'm trying to meditate, I try and use 3 or 4 different ways in. I use stuff about changing my energy patterns, pulling my energy in, or feeling the stillness that's around me, or using allowing, accepting, observing techniques, or playing around with where my attention lies. And that you can start to become very precise as to where your attention is, and it can be very interesting, and it is very important in terms of developing sensory awareness. That's a whole different subject anyways. Now what I want us to do, which is actually developing a little bit more on this attention, is to actually address the pain itself. And this is challenging, and this is why it's the hardest part of it. But what we're trying to do, this is actually can be used as and in its principle, it's a very principle of how, as an osteopath, I practice using the philosophy and the thinking that I'm just about to tell and show you. And we can apply this in terms of self-healing. So I'll go through the principles, then I'll go through a practice of how we do it and talk you through it. So what we're doing in principle is we're letting our attention go to where the pain is directly. If it's it's an acute sore back or whatever, head pain, trigeminal neuralgia, whatever it is, somewhere that's really hurting and painful. What we're going to do is let our attention go to that dark, gnawing, red, angry, whatever it is, or the anxiety. But let's stay with pain for a second. Now, within all of that pain, and if you see it like as a dark cloud, there is something in it that is healthy, that has almost the potency, the power to change that pain and soften it. And it's within it. So it's within the darkest black of night, there is always the seed or the embryo of light. There always is. So if you're using your perception to feel your pain and it is overwhelming, it is all pain, what you have to do is be incredibly precise and find this little tiny speck of light in it. It feels like light or softness in the hardness, and it's there, but it could be a pinhead. It could be so tiny, like a speck or a particle, an atom almost even, of light in all the dark, and you find it. So because what actually we do, especially when we're in pain, we can't not, is we focus on the pain. So the funny thing is what we focus on grows in our perception, because it's just the neurological pathways are firing up that way. So we're laying down a pathway. So if we consciously focus on pain, the pain will feel worse. It's neurologically correct. How can it be any other way? So what we're doing here is we're shifting our awareness very specifically, and it takes a relentless persistence to do so. You just shift your awareness to the seed. Even if you cannot see a pinpoint or an atom of lightness and softness and health in the pain, just believe that there is the imprint or the memory or the potential that it will be there. It's like it could possibly be there in the future. There is a sense of it becoming. And even if you pick up that sense that it will be there, that's enough. But trying to find that little potency of light, that little speck, that little atom molecule of light, and take your awareness on that. Keep your awareness relentlessly on what feels soft, sweet, and something magic happens. It starts to grow and soften and breathe. And what it does is it starts, if you focus on it, it starts to soften the darkness around it and change it. And that's very much one of the principles of how we would treat, is you meet the potential health in the lesion. And we can do this for ourselves. So within this darkness, we meet the light. So let's just sit there and do that. We're going to try this as a practice. So sit quietly, bring your attention to the softness in your breath as we've done before, and allow your body just to settle a little bit. And as we do this, the pain talks. It's the first thing that comes up, because when our mind softens, immediately the pain will come up and show its head, because it's what's there in the background all the time, and it becomes to the foreground. Allow that. Bring your attentional awareness to that pain, be it all over your body or be in one part specifically. Go to where it really doesn't feel nice, okay? But here we're being very precise. We're looking for that pinprick, that atom, that molecule of light in the darkness, or that softness in the hardness, or the future seed of it, the idea of it, that there could be that. Even if you can't feel it, there's always the idea of it. And there is always a tiny potential of health in any lesion. I've never not met it. I've never not found it. It's always there. It's just incredibly hard to find, and you have to be relentless. And when you find it, focus on it and support it and let it breathe. And then the pain will come back a bit, but bring your awareness back to the softness in the lesion, the light. Focus on what is the light, or the potential for the light, the potential energy. And when you focus your attentional awareness on the potential energy, it engages with you. It has a conversation with you and expands and grows. It's that whole quantum mechanics thing, Schrodinger's cat. It's what you observe. If you observe something, it changes it. And so, focusing on that delicate, sweet, tiny potency for health in the darkness of the pain, it starts to grow and soften. And maybe that only lasts for a second or two. That's okay, that's a start. It's a seed. We're planting a seed of health in our consciousness, so we come back to it. And even if you can do this just for a couple of minutes at the beginning, come back to it and try again. Or go back to the techniques we've learned in 1 to 3. Whatever works, then come back to this. What we're doing here is we're planting the seeds of self-healing almost, in it, allowing the softness and the light to come into the blackness of the lesion almost. And by doing that, we're orientating our body towards its potential health. And that is very, very important, especially in chronic pain. So try this, work with this. And as with all practices, the more you do it, the more you can do it. At the beginning it's hard, but actually after doing it 20, 30 times, it starts to get easier. And then you start to find, actually, this is actually making this feel a little better, hopefully. I wish you well with that. And I just wanted to say that come onto the Dynamics of Stillness website for more information about this kind of work, and there will be a series of courses, and there's a forthcoming book coming out called The Dynamics of Stillness, and I'm writing another one right now about working directly with anxiety. I wish you well.